humanity stood at the height of its golden age. Centuries of exploration had led to the colonization of distant star systems, spreading human presence across the galaxy. Technological advancements allowed faster-than-light travel, and the Earth itself had become a center of knowledge, peace, and cooperation. The terrors of old conflicts were distant memories, replaced by interstellar trade routes and diplomatic treaties with neighboring species. Earth's influence was undeniable, not through dominance but through a philosophy of unity. The vision of the human race had evolved. They no longer sought conquest but cooperation, and through that, they had thrived. The human race had grown into the diplomats of the stars, favoring discussion and collaboration over conflict. There were no grand fleets of warships patrolling their borders, only research vessels and cargo freighters crossing the void. Each new discovery was shared, and each species encountered was welcomed as a potential ally. Humanity had cultivated this reputation, a species that would rather shake hands than raise weapons. This approach had brought prosperity and stability to many worlds. It was an era that seemed destined to last forever, until everything changed. Without warning, the silence of the cosmos was shattered. An invasion fleet, unlike anything ever seen, descended upon the human colonies in the Outer Rim. They came from the edges of known space, an alien species that had never been encountered before. Their technology was beyond anything humanity had prepared for, and their intentions were clear: domination. These invaders, later identified as the Zarak, moved with precision, overwhelming outposts and entire planets within hours. Communication was sparse, and survivors spoke of horrific machines of war and biological monstrosities controlled by cold, calculating minds. The Zarak themselves were unlike any species humans had ever encountered. They were tall, their skin a metallic sheen that seemed to pulse with energy. Their eyes, devoid of warmth, were fixed in perpetual calculation. The Zarak valued nothing but their own expansion, and any species they encountered was deemed either a resource or an obstacle. Their empire had grown by consuming planets and stripping them of their resources, leaving dead worlds in their wake. Their ships were massive, heavily armored constructs bristling with advanced weaponry, their energy weapons slicing through human defenses with terrifying ease. Their arrival was not accompanied by diplomacy. No emissaries were sent, no terms offered. Instead, a single transmission echoed through human space. Surrender your worlds, your resources, or face extinction. It was a message that left little room for misunderstanding. The Zarak viewed humanity as nothing more than another species to be crushed under their ever-growing empire. But they had made one grave mistake. They had underestimated the resolve of humanity, the fire that had driven them to survive against impossible odds time and time again. The leaders of Earth and its colonies were paralyzed, if only for a moment. The Zarak invasion was something no one had predicted, and the devastation they had already wrought on the outer colonies sent shockwaves through the human government. The United Earth Federation called for an emergency session, pulling together politicians, military strategists, and scientists from every corner of human space. The debate was fierce. Some argued for surrender, reasoning that survival and servitude was better than extinction. Others, especially the military, pushed for resistance, believing that humanity should never bow to a tyrant. As the room filled with heated voices, a silence fell when one of the highest-ranking generals stood. His voice was calm, but his words cut through the noise like a blade. "We will not kneel." The room quieted, and in that moment, the decision was made. Humanity would fight. They would not hand over their worlds to these conquerors without a struggle. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would do it again. After all, Earth had been on the brink of destruction more times than it cared to remember, and each time, they had emerged stronger. The message was sent to the Zarak. "You want war? We'll give you a war." The call to arms echoed across every human colony and settlement. The moment the decision was made, humanity sprang into action. Factories shifted their production to weapons and ships. Scientists worked day and night to develop countermeasures to the alien technology, reverse engineering captured devices and pushing the boundaries of their knowledge. Engineers designed faster, more durable ships, equipped with new energy shields and weapons capable of piercing even the thickest Zarak armor. Strategists pulled from Earth's long history of war, crafting tactics that emphasized humanity's strengths, adaptability, creativity, and perseverance. The mobilization was swift and focused. What humanity lacked in sheer technological power, they made up for with resourcefulness. They exploited every advantage they had, mining asteroids for rare metals, harnessing the energy of distant stars, and using cyber warfare to infiltrate and disrupt the Zarak's communication systems. Humanity knew they couldn't match the invaders in a straight fight, but they didn't need to. They used guerrilla tactics, striking swiftly, retreating into the shadows, and using the vastness of space to their advantage. Their warships, though smaller and less advanced, became deadly through clever modifications. Hackers crippled enemy systems mid-battle, turning the Zarak's superior technology against them. Each victory, no matter how small, gave humanity hope. The first real blow came when human forces launched a surprise attack on a Zarak forward base deep in one of the outer systems. It was a calculated risk, but the intelligence gathered suggested it was vulnerable. A fleet of human ships, led by a handful of daring captains, descended upon the base in the dead of night, using the system's asteroid belt to hide their approach. The battle was brutal and chaotic. The Zarak fought back fiercely, their automated defenses raining fire upon the human fleet. But humanity fought harder. Amidst the explosions and gunfire, human soldiers witnessed the true cruelty of their enemy. Captured civilians were being used as living shields, forced to maintain the Zarak's machinery under threat of execution. The sight of this only fueled their resolve. This wasn't just a war for survival, it was a war for justice. The human fleet fought with everything they had. They launched torpedoes into weak points, tore through enemy lines, and unleashed their cyber warfare teams to disable the base's defenses. With every ship that fell, more surged forward to take its place. The Zarak, confident in their superiority, were caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack. In the end, the base fell. Human forces liberated the prisoners and left nothing but debris in their wake. Word of the victory spread quickly, boosting morale across the colonies. It wasn't just a tactical win, it was a psychological one. The Zarak were stunned. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such raw determination. They had expected a species that would surrender at the first sign of overwhelming power. Instead, they had found a race that, even when outmatched, refused to back down. Every human victory, no matter how small, chipped away at the invaders' confidence. The tide of war began to shift. Humanity, though still outgunned, adapted to the Zarak's tactics. They learned from every battle, adjusting their strategies, refining their weapons. What started as small, hit-and-run skirmishes turned into full-scale engagements where human fleets held their own. The Zarak found themselves facing an enemy they could no longer predict. Their invasion plan, once so methodical and certain, was now in disarray. Human forces started reclaiming lost territory, pushing the Zarak back system by system. But the Zarak were not defeated yet. Infuriated by their setbacks, they began regrouping, preparing for a larger assault. Their empire was vast, and they still held the upper hand in terms of sheer numbers and technology. Humanity knew the worst was yet to come, and as they pushed forward, the shadow of a larger, more decisive battle loomed on the horizon. This war was far from over, but for the first time, humanity dared to hope that they might just have a fighting chance. The final assault was inevitable. The Zarak, wounded by their losses, had set their sights on Earth, determined to end the resistance once and for all. Their fleet, larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had ever seen, darkened the stars as it approached the homeworld. On Earth, every available ship, every soldier who could stand, was called to arms. The defenses, bolstered by months of frantic preparation, were ready. But everyone knew the truth: this would be the last stand. If Earth fell, so would the rest of humanity. Across the system, fleets gathered. From the smallest fighters to the massive dreadnoughts, humanity's armada awaited the oncoming storm. The Zarak entered the system like a tidal wave of destruction, their ships looming ominously, blocking out the light of distant stars. The clash was immediate. The two fleets collided in a chaotic maelstrom of laser fire, missiles, and debris. Orbital bombardments lit up the surface of Mars, where ground forces fought to hold key outposts. In space, dogfights broke out across every corner of the system, ships twisting and turning in a deadly dance. Explosions ripped through the darkness as ships on both sides were torn apart by the sheer brutality of the battle. The sheer scale of the conflict was overwhelming. Earth's defense platforms fired continuously, launching volleys of missiles into the heart of the alien fleet, while human fighters darted between massive Zarak warships, targeting weak points with precision. Yet, despite the heroism of the human forces, the invaders pressed forward. The Zarak's numbers seemed endless, their ships bearing down on Earth's defenses with relentless force. Entire squadrons were wiped out in seconds, and human losses mounted as the enemy pushed ever closer to the planet. But humanity had not come this far without a plan. Unbeknownst to the Zarak, Earth had been preparing for this very moment. Hidden deep within the planet's core was a secret project, one that had been developed in the shadows of war. As the battle raged on, the time came to unveil it. In a coordinated move, the signal was sent, and from beneath the surface of Earth emerged a weapon the likes of which the galaxy had never seen, an array of planetary defense systems powered by a newly developed AI. Massive cannons, capable of harnessing the energy of the planet itself, fired with devastating precision. The AI-controlled fleets moved with impossible coordination, predicting the enemy's every move and turning the tide of the battle in an instant. Zarak's ships, once so unstoppable, were obliterated with pinpoint accuracy. The invaders, now facing a foe that could anticipate their every move, began to falter. Panic spread through the ranks of the Zarak, their cold, calculating minds no longer in control of the chaos. Realizing they were outmatched, the Zarak began a desperate retreat. Their once invincible fleet, now shattered and broken, turned to flee from the system. But humanity was relentless. Ships that had once defended now pursued, driving the invaders from Earth's skies and beyond. The Zarak, for all their technological superiority, had been defeated by something they had never anticipated: human ingenuity and the unbreakable will to survive. The battle was won, but at a staggering cost. The wreckage of war littered the skies, and the surface of Earth and its colonies bore the scars of the conflict. Thousands of lives had been lost in the defense of humanity's homeworld. The price of victory weighed heavily on those who survived. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was a sense of triumph. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. They had earned their place among the stars, not through conquest, but through resilience. As the last of the Zarak forces withdrew, there was a final message sent across the stars. A message of defiance, of strength, of survival. The invaders, once so confident in their ability to dominate, were forced to acknowledge that humanity was not a race to be trifled with. They had come seeking war, and war was what they received. Now they retreated, licking their wounds, knowing that Earth was no longer theirs to take. In the aftermath, the human race looked to the future with cautious hope. They had proven, once again, that when pushed to the brink, they would not break. The stars awaited them, and while the cost had been high, they knew one thing for certain: they would always fight to the bitter end. The war was over, but the scars remained. Cities lay in ruins, and the sky was streaked with the trails of wreckage from fallen ships. Across the planets and colonies, humanity began the slow process of rebuilding. Yet, despite the devastation, there was a deep sense of pride and unity. People from every walk of life had come together, casting aside old rivalries, uniting for one common cause: survival. The resilience that had carried them through the darkest days of war now fueled their recovery. Factories that once produced weapons now focused on restoring life, rebuilding homes, and reconnecting fractured communities. As the narrator reflects on these times, it's clear that what humanity had endured wasn't just a battle for territory or resources, but for their very identity. The war had tested their spirit, pushed them to the edge, but it had also proven something fundamental: humanity, when united, could overcome any obstacle. In their darkest hour, they had found strength in each other, and now, as the dust settled, that strength would carry them forward. The lessons of the war were etched into every survivor, a constant reminder of the price of freedom and the cost of complacency. Far beyond human reach, in the cold, dark reaches of space, the Zarak regrouped. Their once flawless strategy lay in tatters, their empire stunned by the crushing defeat. In the aftermath, their leaders convened in secret, analyzing what had gone wrong. Some were furious, convinced that they had underestimated a primitive species. But others, the more reflective minds, began to admire what they had seen. Humanity, though technologically inferior, had something the Zarak couldn't quantify: an unbreakable will. They had refused to surrender, even when the logical choice would have been to bow before overwhelming might. Some within the Zarak ranks began to wonder if there was more to be learned from these humans. Perhaps they were not just another species to be conquered. There were murmurs of potential alliances in the future, whispers of learning from humanity's resilience rather than destroying it. But others were not so willing to let go of their defeat. For them, the war was not over, it had merely been postponed. One way or another, they would return, and next time, they would be ready. As the Zarak plotted their next moves, humanity stood taller than ever before. Their place among the stars was now undeniable. What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had transformed into something greater, a legacy. No longer viewed as easy prey or a lesser species, humanity was now a force to be reckoned with. They had earned their place through blood, sacrifice, and sheer determination. Their legacy was not one of conquest but of survival against impossible odds. The stars held many more challenges, but one truth was now clear to every race that looked to the skies: humanity was here to stay, and they would never be underestimated again.